Hi, I'd like to welcome you to this short video about the Bass Angler Sport Fishing Society and share with you a little bit of history about our club, describe how we're not just a fishing club, but we also campaign for a better deal for bass and bass anglers, and we also get involved in scientific research and academic studies. Bass has been working to protect and restore the UK bass stock and bass angling since it was formed back in 1973. Our goal is to recover the bass stock to a more natural level of abundance and to increase sea anglers' allocation of the catch back to the levels last seen in the 1970s and 80s, when commercial bass fishing pressure was relatively low. Put simply, we would like to achieve more and bigger bass. This means reducing and then keeping commercial fishing pressure low, to allow the stock to recover, and for fisheries managers to target abundance rather than their current focus of maximising commercial catches. The European sea bass is highly prized by lure, fly and bait anglers. In France they call it loup de mer, wolf of the sea. Here in the UK it's most commonly known by sea anglers simply as bass. And it's easy to see why they are one of sea anglers' most popular fish. Not only do they fight doggedly and tenaciously, but they're a handsome looking fish with bronze and silver colouring and bristling spiked fins. The species is slow growing and late maturing, with females taking several years to reach breeding size. The oldest recorded wild caught bass was estimated to be 28 years old. Just like the growth rings on a tree trunk, each year a new annuli is produced in the scales of bass, making them relatively easy to age with a magnifying glass or a microscope. Bass has over 5,000 scale samples collected by our members, and these have been loaned to scientists and students conducting research into bass distribution and growth rates. In terms of maximum size, here in the UK, the current ratified shore caught record is held by John Locker, with a 19 pound 12 ounce bass caught at Portsmouth in 2012. Some of you may recognise John from his highly successful The Fish Locker YouTube channel. Bass has a long tradition of assisting in fish tagging, surveys of young bass and other scientific studies to improve our knowledge and understanding of the life cycle, distribution and habits of this fascinating species. In the 1980s we purchased a pan-jet dye marker for students at Swansea University to use in their PhD work on bass movements in and around Swansea Bay. The marked fish, when recaptured, proved that juvenile bass had a relatively small home range and stayed within a few miles of where they were first captured and marked. In the early 2000s, with the help of our members, over 2,500 bass of a kilo and above in weight were caught and tagged with plastic T-bar tags. They consisted of a yellow streamer 105mm long bearing a unique serial number and a message printed in English and French requesting recaptured details to be returned to the scientists at CIFAS here in the UK or Ifremer in France. The tag was attached to the lower flank of the fish by removing a small patch of scales and making a small incision with a scalpel. The retention piece was then inserted into the body cavity of the fish, causing it no harm. The tag number, location and length of the fish were logged and reported back to the scientists. The tagged bass were then returned to the sea, and survival rates were considered to be extremely high, given the short period of time that they were out of the water and that they were handled with extreme care. Just over 200 tagged bass were subsequently recaught and the tag information returned. Of the fish tagged in summer feeding areas, most recaptures were made fairly close to the original tagging point, confirming that bass exhibit homing tendencies for specific places. In fact, one bass, tag number E416756, was caught by bass members over 3 successive summers from the same location. And in the winter, the tags returned proved that bass migrate south from around the coast of England to offshore areas in the English Channel, where they prepare to spawn in early spring. More recently, we've been involved in catching bass for Plymouth Uni's iBass project to fit modern acoustic tracking tags to bass, to monitor their movements in 3 West Country estuaries, and that 3-year study is nearing completion. Our members also assist the Halford Marine Conservation Group in netting very small bass to understand the survival rates of bass fry from year to year, as this can give a good indication of the likelihood of any problems in the adult stocks in years to come. Save Our Sea Bass, or SOSB, is the campaigning arm of bass and is funded by donations from our members as well as individuals and organisations who share our vision for a restored bass stock and a vibrant sport fishery. SOSB's work is carried out by a team of volunteers who are passionate about bass angling and want a better future for the bass fishery and for bass anglers. Now, we support both sustainable catch and eat angling and cast and release bass angling. SOSB is at the heart of the political debate on the future of the sea bass fishery in Northern Europe. Through our campaign website www.saveourseabass.org, we make it easy for people to contact the fishery managers and politicians in the UK and the EU to tell them how they want the bass fishery to be restored. This gives a voice to sea anglers in the UK and across Europe who want the bass fishery managed to deliver more and bigger bass for sea anglers. But often it's like pushing a large rock up a very steep hill. In 2009, it was recognised by EU fisheries scientists that commercial overfishing had caused the bass stock to start falling and recommended that action needed to be taken. It wasn't, unfortunately. In 2014, the spawning stock biomass, or SSB, fell below B trigger, the level where fishery managers are supposed to apply stock prevention measures. They weren't. Now, this graph has been produced using estimates provided by scientists at the International Council for the Exploration of Sea, an intergovernmental marine science organisation tasked with providing impartial evidence on the state and sustainable use of our seas and oceans. In November 2014, Save Our Sea Bass made its first trip to Brussels to lobby the EU Commission for cuts in commercial bass landings in order to save the bass stock. The EU Commission explained that it had tried to persuade the EU member states to reduce bass catches, but admitted that it had failed and we were facing an environmental disaster. In early 2015, the EU Commission enacted law stopping the hugely disruptive practice of pair trawling for bass, and this then opened the floodgates for other protective measures. Since then, Save Our Sea Bass has continued to push hard for commercial fishing pressure to be reduced to sustainable levels. With the help of our supporters and donors, we achieved meaningful cuts in commercial bass fishing pressure that have halted the decline in the stock. Bass make an excellent target for the saltwater fly rodder, whether fishing from the seashore or from a boat. In the past few years, our members have captured several bass of 8 pound and above on fly gear, and one of, if not the largest bass recorded on the fly, was a fish of just over 11 pound caught by one of our members, Jeremy Coleman, only last year. So for anyone interested in finding out more about bass or bass, there's a store of information on our website www.ukbass.com and our friendly members only forum and in our fantastic quarterly magazine. Well, many thanks for watching and tight lines.